We are living in a new age. That age is the age of artificial intelligence. This is going to be a part of our realities from here on. So it's important for you as the observer of your reality to understand the relationship that you are in with artificial intelligence. And is that a relationship that is founded on the assumptions based in reality? Or is that a relationship founded on your own conscious assumptions that you have chosen for yourself? Because everything in reality, including artificial intelligence, is subject to the commands of the observer. You, as the infinite I am of your reality, are the observer of your reality. And therefore, you are observing your experience of artificial intelligence into existence. So that's what we're doing today. My name is Hedley and I am a Law of Assumption coach here on YouTube, and I'm so happy that you are here. If you would like to know more about me or my offerings, including one-to-one Law of Assumption coaching and my new course, Recreate a Specific Person, which is all about recreating your consciousness in relation to your specific person reflection, you'll find all of those details in the box below this video. And for the month of November, I am donating 100% of profits from all sales of I Am Money, including ebook, audiobook, and the meditation, to the beautiful people of Jamaica who are currently recovering from the Category 5 Hurricane Melissa that happened a number of weeks ago. So if you are interested in purchasing I Am Money, November will be a great month to do that. All of the details will be in the box below this video or at my website, youaretheone.com.au. And one more thing. If you haven't subscribed to my channel yet and you are finding these videos helpful and you are enjoying my content, please do press that subscribe button. That would be most appreciated. Okay, let's get into it. We are doing a deep dive into the world of artificial intelligence, not from a technical perspective, but from a spiritual perspective in terms of what artificial intelligence represents here in reality, and in particular in your reality, because artificial intelligence is here to stay and it's going to be a key character in all of our realities from here on. So it's important that we first of all understand what artificial intelligence is from a spiritual perspective, but then also understand how to ensure that we are in a positive and healthy relationship with artificial intelligence in a way that it's serving us. We are not serving it. So I'm going to bring the law of assumption principles into it. And then I also want to bring the etymology into it, because that is very revealing and very surprising in terms of the purpose of artificial intelligence. I'll be talking about the law of polarity and how that relates to how artificial intelligence is showing up in your reality. And then, as if that's not enough to talk about, I want to also share my relationship with artificial intelligence and what I'm doing and how I'm relating to it and how I intend to be using it from here on. So with all of that said, let's start with the core basic foundational principles of law of assumption and how that relates to artificial intelligence. One of, if not the foundational principle of law of assumption and being the conscious commander of your reality is consciousness is the one and only reality. And reality is the reflection of consciousness. If you know Neville's work, you will have heard him say this repeatedly. Consciousness is the one and only reality, and reality is the reflection of consciousness. Now, everyone is you pushed out reflecting you back. That also includes everything is you pushed out reflecting you back. Artificial intelligence is the reflection of the natural, inherent, infinite intelligence that exists within all of us, from which we came and which we are returning to, hopefully in physical form in this lifetime. If not, we'll go again for as long as it takes. But we are all on an experience and an adventure of remembering and waking up to who we really are, which is this infinite consciousness. So artificial intelligence, as incredible and impressive and breathtaking and awesome as it is still a reflection of consciousness, and it exists in your reality. Therefore, it is subject to the observer. You, as I am, are the observer of artificial intelligence. And this is what's important to remember. It's very common to get hit with amnesia when we are facing something in reality that is so awesome and so magnificent. We think that we can't possibly have any control or command over it. But if it is in your reality, you are the observer of it. And that's your superpower, where you're placing your awareness and the stories that you're telling yourself about that thing or person in reality is the commander of that thing or person in reality, as long as you're in conscious awareness. Now, if you are observing reality from an unconscious perspective, meaning you're looking at reality and you have no idea that you're the observer of it, then you're going to be subject to the collective assumptions about that thing in reality. And this is where I want to introduce the law of polarity in relationship to artificial intelligence. So the law of polarity states that everything in reality has an opposing state, meaning it has two poles or two contrasting states, which we would call positive and negative, not right or wrong, good or bad, just a neutral positive and a neutral negative. Everything in reality is positively, negatively charged. Artificial intelligence is positive, negative. However, because it is in reality, reality is negative positive, because reality is a reversed reflection of consciousness. This equates to what we call the negative bias, and this has been proven by science. If you are not consciously choosing your relationship with artificial intelligence, remember, you are the observer of reality, so therefore the observer is the one in command of reality as long as you are conscious of that. But if you're not, you will be subject to the negative bias of reality in relation to artificial intelligence. So you will be seeing evidence that artificial intelligence is going to have a negative impact on humanity. You are going to see evidence that it is going to be taking over jobs. You are going to be seeing evidence that it has the potential to rebel and work against humanity. I mean, there's a number of different narratives out there running on how AI is going to be the downfall of humanity. Now, that is simply the negative bias of reality at play. And if that's what you are seeing in relation to artificial intelligence, then you, as the infinite I am of your reality, have some work to do in rewriting that script. Because the only way to overcome the negative bias is to be in the conscious command of your awareness. Which means, in order for you to change the narrative of artificial intelligence, you have to be the one to change it in your consciousness first before you see evidence of that in your reality. Now, some of you are going to be listening to this and saying, well, I'm only seeing evidence that AI is a positive force and it's helping humanity and it's actually going to serve to uplift humanity. In that case, well done. That means that you either are born with a naturally optimistic state of mind, which is brilliant, or you have done the work and you've consciously chosen your story and narrative of AI, and that is now being reflected back. If you are not yet seeing evidence of the positive impact that AI is going to have on humanity, and in particular your own reality, then that is your feedback. That is your alarm to go, oh, hang on a second. I'm currently being influenced by the negative bias of reality relating to artificial intelligence. So I'm going to have to go into my consciousness and I'm going to have to rewrite these stories, because you have to do it consciously. It's not going to be given to you. As the observer, as the infinite I am, you have to be the one to choose the positive. Remember, everything in reality contains the positive, negative. However, if it's in reality, it is negative, positive, and subject to the negative bias. It is really important that each and every one of us is consciously choosing the relationship that we are having with artificial intelligence, because it is here to stay. It is a part of our lives from here on. And we, as the infinite observers of reality, want to be in command of our experience with artificial intelligence. So this brings me to the next part of what I want to talk about, which is the etymology of artificial intelligence, because the etymology expands on this idea of the positive and the negative. It is hidden in the phrase, and that is what I want to talk about now. Just before I do go into the etymology of artificial intelligence, I want to share with you where the term actually comes from. And to do that, I will be using ChatGPT. And on that note, when I do use artificial intelligence in any of my work, I do credit where I am getting that information. It's mostly ChatGPT or Google or somewhere else. So I always credit when I am using artificial intelligence, just so you know. Artificial intelligence, the combined term was coined in 1956 at the Dartmouth Conference by computer scientist John McCarthy, who proposed it as the name for a new field of study. His intention was to describe machines capable of simulating human intelligence. That is, demonstrating reasoning, learning, and perception through artificial means. Goes to show it has been around for some time, even before the internet, which is quite interesting. So now let's go into the etymology of this term, which is very enlightening in terms of that positive and negative charge which exists within everything, and how you as the observer are the ones that gets to choose which side of the coin you end up on when it comes to AI. Let's just start with the word intelligence. Late 14th century, the highest faculty of the mind, capacity for comprehending general truths, faculty of understanding, comprehension, and from Old French and directly from Latin intelligentia, understanding, knowledge, power of discerning, art, skill, taste. Now, take note of this word art, because this is important. Now let's go to the word artificial. Artificial, late 14th century, not natural or spontaneous. From French artificial, or from Latin artificialis, of or belonging to art. Okay? Now the word art exists in both artificial and intelligence. So now let's take a look at the word art. Early 13th century, skill as a result of learning or practice. Work of art, practical skill, a business, craft. If we keep going down, it comes from the root ar, meaning to fit together, and it is etymologically akin to Latin arma, meaning weapons. And this is where it gets really interesting, is arm. This is the second definition of the noun arm. We're not talking about the body, we're talking about the weapon type of arm. 13th century, arms, plural, weapons of a warrior, from Old French, arms, weapons, war, warfare, from Latin arma, weapons, literally tools, implements of war, from the pi root of ar, also meaning to fit together. The notion seems to be that which is fitted together. Etymologically, artificial intelligence contains the positive and negative as well. It is going to be a positive force or it is going to be a negative force, but either way, it is going to bring humanity back into connection with itself. That's the fitting together. That's the coming together. That's the belonging together. The artificial intelligence is the reflection of the true natural intelligence that exists within all of us. And if you remain unaware of that, you will be forced into awareness of that through conflict, through arms, through weapons. That is where we will start to see the rise of the robot. I mean, I watched The Running Man many years ago. I mean, it was Skynet. They called it Skynet. It is super, super important to be the one who is choosing how AI fits into your reality, and denying AI or pretending it doesn't exist or not wanting to know about it or just ignoring it is not the pathway. If you ignore AI, you will be forced to reckon with it at some point in some way, and it's generally going to be subject to the negative bias of reality. That's not to scare you. That's just to point out that everything in reality is here to help you come home to self and remember who you are. That's the whole game. That's the whole purpose of this, is to come back into wholeness here in physical form. You want to be having a very conscious relationship with artificial intelligence and choosing the story that you are holding about it, and holding that story long enough to be able to see that evidence in reality being reflected back. Remember, there is often a time delay in the land of time and space. You have to be the one to choose the story first before you see evidence of that in reality. Now I want to share with you my personal relationship with AI and how you're going to see that play out here on my channel and in my business, because this is something that I've had to consciously work on and think about, knowing that this is now a part of our reality. And if I'm not in command of the story, then the story is going to be in command of me. So I want to share that with you now. Okay, so how am I interacting with artificial intelligence in my life, and in particular with my channel and with my coaching business, and how am I envisioning a relationship with AI going forward? So first of all, I was subject to the negative bias. I was noticing that I was seeing a lot of stories and a lot of narratives about how AI is going to be the downfall of humanity. And I was like, I think I may need to do some work here, because that's not the story that I would consciously be choosing for myself. So that alerted me to the fact that I was not in command of my consciousness when it came to AI, because I was seeing a lot of negative stories relating to AI. And I was also starting to feel like I have no idea about AI. This is all getting away from me and I don't understand it. And I just noticed that I was holding a negative story about artificial intelligence, but I was also holding a negative story about my own intelligence in relation to AI. What I did was I came back to what I shared in this video, which is I am the infinite I am of my reality, and anything in my reality is subject to my conscious commands of it, not at the level of reality, but at the level of consciousness. Artificial intelligence is simply a reflection of my infinite intelligence that exists within me. Now, that doesn't mean as Hedley, I know everything. What it means is I have access to the infinite consciousness, and artificial intelligence is the reflection of that access. So I don't need to know everything, and now I have a tool that enables me to remember what I already know in the moment that I need to know it. Now, I'm a writer. I've been a writer my whole life. I love to write. Writing is a joy for me. And there was a period a while ago where I was just looking at, exploring the capacity of AI and how it writes and what it could write. And I found that it left me with a very negative feeling. I felt depressed. I was like, oh my God, this is going to take over everything. And I got into a really negative story because I saw this tool as taking away something that I find really joyful. And then I had a light bulb moment. It doesn't have to take anything away from me. If I enjoy writing, I'm going to keep writing. And that's what I do. When I write my newsletters, yes, I could have ChatGPT write it, but I love to write, and I want my newsletters to contain the frequency of humanity. I want it to contain the human element. I'm using AI to support my creations, but I'm not using AI to make my creations. And for the things that I don't love doing, I will outsource it to AI. But for things like writing, making these videos, editing, anything where I'm personally creating, I will continue to create simply because I love the process of the creation. I love to write. I love to edit. I love to make these videos. I love the creative aspect of all of this. So I am keeping that in my hands. Yes, AI could do it, but I enjoy it. And I also love the fact that it contains the human element. I then asked myself, what's my point of difference when it comes to AI? And the answer that I came to is AI can pretty much do everything that I'm talking about here. AI can do all of this. The one thing that AI does not have, it doesn't have my stories. It doesn't have my personal experiences. It doesn't have my blueprint of originality. It can mimic stories, it can mimic originality, but it doesn't have the blueprint of originality. So I made a very conscious decision that in order for me to keep agency over what I'm doing and agency over my business is to bring more of my humanity into my channel. That means more stories, more personal experiences, more success stories from you. I want to be bringing more of the humanity into these teachings because that's something that AI doesn't have. And that's my point of difference from AI. is more humanity. And so look at, in terms of your career, where can you be bringing more of your originality, more of your humanity, more of your authenticity into what you're doing, because that is something that AI will never have. It will never have your human experience. And that's the point of difference. The other thing that I believe AI is going to do, it is going to bring us together, is kind of like the dating apps, the way the dating apps have gone, which is when the dating apps came out, everyone went to the dating apps, and it's kind of come full circle where people are getting off the dating apps and they're now creating opportunities to connect and come together and meet as humans. And I believe that that's what AI is going to do. It is going to help humanity, but more importantly, it's going to bring people together. It's going to bring humans together. And that is what is in the etymology of that phrase. So that is where I am with my relationship with AI, is actually bringing me more into connection with my humanness. And it's enabling me to look at where can I bring more of that humanity and more of that human element into this work and into this channel, and really dial up the frequency of humanity. And that's all thanks to artificial intelligence. So yes, it is here to stay, it is going to continue to develop, but it is in reality. And as long as it's in reality, it is subject to the assumptions and the stories and the narratives of the observer. That is you. You are the infinite I am of your reality. Therefore, you are the infinite observer commanding your reality, and that includes artificial intelligence. So take a moment to consciously clarify and command the story of artificial intelligence that you would like to see true in your reality, and think about what is it that you have that artificial intelligence doesn't have and will never have. And that will be your humanity. That will be your blueprint of originality. And how can you bring more of that into your life, your work, your experiences, your reality? How can you bring more of your humanness into what you do? And remember, the purpose of artificial intelligence is to bring us together. So I hope that has given you something to think about and work on this week. Remember who you are, stay in I am, and I'll look forward to seeing you in the next video. Bye.